if you try even just the littlest thing, even if it's one step out of your comfort zone or talking to someone different or just opening up to someone else, you're opening up that pathway to keep moving and get out of what you're stuck in.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Kyl Reber podcast. This is a podcast where I get to talk to a lot of famous and very cool people that none of us know, but after the next hour and a half, we will get to know this person a lot better. This person, I will admit, I'm going to probably learn a lot about her because I don't know her terribly well, but I know that she does a couple of things very well. One thing, telling athletes what shit to put in their mouth and what shit to not put in their mouth. She does that very well. And I'm sure there's a lot more to her to peel the onion back. So, Rachel Lee, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Kyl. I'm really excited.
Okay. So, for those who are new to this, we have 10 questions that Rach was sent. They have varying degrees of difficulty. They are somewhat thought-provoking. They might be easy to answer. They might not be easy to answer. But we work through them and we go from there. So question number 1, which is always the longest question, even though there is a time limit, but the time limit's just, it doesn't exist. Birth to now in 7 minutes. You're a young pup, so that won't take too long. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So I was born and bred here in Melbourne, in Victoria. I live basically a stone's throw away from where I grew up now. I kind of had, I wouldn't say a rough childhood, but a tumultuous one. I was bullied quite a lot when I was younger. My parents divorced when I was quite young. And so immediately you get this sense, this shift that you're different.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was kind of reflected in my relationships with other kids when I was younger. And I would say I had, now as an adult, I would probably say that I had social anxiety as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know those things back then.
No.
And so, yeah, I feel like that kind of really shaped me as I've grown. Fast forward to high school, still difficulty making friends, but getting easier as it was. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 15, which was a really interesting time. I remember it feeling kind of all like a blur, like hazy. I don't have great memories of that time back then.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do remember is seeking out counselling from 2 different counsellors, a school counsellor and a psychologist outside of that. And, you know, bringing up those feelings of feeling different and feeling isolated came with that, because both the counsellors said to me, I don't know what to do for you, which was really challenging.
What year is this? What year is this?
Would have been year 9, so 2009.
2009. So yeah. Depression was, the word I'm probably going to use is depression was becoming quite well known and quite accepted. What made you stop? And we'll probably definitely touch on this now across the podcast. What made you sort of stop, and who did you go to initially to say, I think there's something wrong with me? What was the thing? It
was more the other way around. It was my mum who came to me.
Okay.
She always describes my time as a teenager as very dark. I went right into the emo phase of everything: dark hair, dark clothes, heavy metal music, like the full scene. And I was still a good kid. I still got good grades at school. I was still friendly, but my mum just remembers me being very dark. And there was a moment, bit of a trigger warning for everyone. There was a moment where I was self-harming, and mum noticed and pulled me aside and said, enough is enough. It's time to start doing something about this.
Did you stop and go, you're right? Or was there initial resistance?
Yeah, I knew she was right. Definitely knew she was right. It was just hard to come to terms with.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, my parents organised counselling, and unfortunately, that wasn't the best route for me at the time. Having people tell me that they didn't know what to do for me.
When you already don't know what to do for yourself. It
Yeah,
must have been, yeah, that must have been very hard to have all that going through your head. And then like you've got a professional saying, I don't know how to help you,
yeah,
well, who does?
yeah. That's exactly. I didn't know who to reach out to at all. So for a few years, I didn't. I have a wonderful therapist now. She's fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
and who has sort of described the way that I go into therapy as I'm very emotionally analytical. So I can look at my emotions objectively, but not always, I don't know, feel them as deeply as I could. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's what they were picking up on, was that I knew exactly what was wrong with me when I was a teenager, but
Yeah.
I didn't know how to fix it, but they thought I did. So it all ties into where I am now anyway.
Usually does.
Yeah. So fast forward a few more years, I sort of came out of that depression. I was an overweight kid, overweight teenager. I lost a bit of weight later on in my teens. Started making some more meaningful friendships
Mm-hmm.
later on in school. And yeah, sort of stepped out of that, which was really good. I loved health class in year 12, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I used to think I was going to be a journalist. I loved literature, but
Mm-hmm.
I, yeah, loved my health class. And one of my friend's mums said, why don't you do health promotion? So after school, I went to uni and did 3 years of a Bachelor of Health Science at Monash.
Yep.
Um, and in the final year of that, still had no idea what I wanted to do. And my friend was calorie counting and got me onto that. And it just completely ignited this passion that I have for nutrition now.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with it. The calorie counting thing kind of has its own story, unfortunately, but the good that I take out from it was that it really kind of woke me up to the love that I have for food and nutrition. And so I went on to study a master's in human nutrition with Deakin.
Yeah.
I did that online because I was working full time at the time and living out of home, had to pay bills somehow. And in that time, I actually moved to Sydney for a couple of years with a previous
Okay.
partner. He got a really good job offer up there, and I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been 2018. And we just thought, stuff it, let's go and give it a try. And so we moved up to Sydney for a year and a half, came home, and bang, there's the pandemic, which was good fun. It was 6 months after we moved home, the pandemic hit.
Yep.
I started training Muay Thai that year, so 2019, in the middle of the year there. So I got 6 months of good training before
Woo.
having to do everything on Zoom.
How good were those Zoom classes? I'm sure yours were as good as ours.
I loved them, Kyle. I got so much out of them because there was only maybe 5 people in the Zoom classes at a
And no
time.
matter how many people were in the class, you probably still felt like you were getting one-on-one attention
So much.
because they were like this, yeah, they're right there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like getting a PT session. They could single
Mm.
you out and, they could see everything you're doing rather than having to walk around the
Yeah,
class.
yeah, yeah.
So it was fabulous. I got so much out of it and came back after the pandemic feeling like I had more skills than I would have in class.
Yep.
So very grateful for that.
Mm.
And yeah, so I finished my degree in 2019, started working as a nutritionist in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of owned my own businesses on and off since then, just trying to find my way in the industry. Right up until the end of what are we in now, 24, end of 2022, I relaunched my business, Mind My Plate, which is what I run now, with my passion for mental health,
Okay.
connecting mental health and nutrition together.
So how old does that make you now, Rachel?
I'm 29.
Okay. All right. No, you're not completely a pup. But you can see there that there is obviously a direct correlation with what you went through as a youngster compared to what's become your passion now, which is not uncommon at all. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but what is the if you were to give a broad 2 sentence summary of the correlation between what you eat and mental health, how would you summarize that?
Yeah, primarily through the gut brain connection. So, what we eat has a direct impact on our gut, and our gut is like our second brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, it has a direct communication through a nerve right up to our brain. And that's a bidirectional pathway that tells your brain how you're feeling, and then your brain tells your gut how you're feeling. So, if you're feeding your gut not the best foods, it's going to send signals to your brain that your gut's unhappy, and that can cause depression, anxiety, all sorts of other things. And there's lots that goes into it. Obviously, it's a huge field, but generally we start there.
Is it a field that probably is, I don't want to say new, but it's a field that we haven't really taken notice of as much as we could have, and only recently now. So this is the reason why I want to have 4 cheeseburgers, and then for the next 2 hours I hate myself. Is this why? This the thing?
You're not wrong in saying that it's new at all. It's a very novel field of research. Really, in Australia, Australia is really the pioneer for it. We've got a wonderful group of researchers called the Food and Mood Centre in Geelong, and they do a lot of research into this, and they've really pioneered that. But really, that's only been happening since 2010.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah. But this research is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And it really all it's doing is confirming all the wives' tales that our mothers and their mothers and before them have told us for ages.
So emotional eating is real.
Yes, absolutely.
When you reach for the ice cream when you've had a bad day, that's normal.
Yeah, it's a neural pathway. It's all in your brain.
So when you say mental health and nutrition, your job is to try and, I guess, match or get foods or understand, so people understand when they're feeling this way, maybe try this instead, or this is the tactics to try and avoid falling into that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So generally there's an umbrella of like a food pattern that people can follow to eat that will give you the baseline nutrition for the functions in your body that are necessary for supporting your mental health.
Yeah.
So certain nutrients that we all need, that most of us are not deficient in, but probably don't get enough of. And just really getting people into that pattern of eating those foods. And a lot of it is whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, less processed foods. And then it's about the nuance of figuring out what's personalizing for that person.
Yeah.
So whether they are deficient, is boosting them up in that nutrient, or figuring out how it's going to fit in their lifestyle so that they can still enjoy the food that they love at the same time, because there is mental health in the food that we love as well, fried food and chocolate and all that. We still need it. It's got a place somewhere. But figuring out the personalization in there too.
So do you work in hand then, I guess, with maybe psychs and that sort of thing? And you might have this network where you're trying to help each other make sense of things in that sort of field. So is that?
Yeah.
And I guess this is gonna be a dad thing, but anyway, are you that person who goes out to dinner with someone or goes to a barbecue and points and goes, you gonna fucking eat that? Like, is that what you like? Do you do that, or you go, I'm off the clock now, I'm not working now?
Hell no. You never want to be that person. You never want. I will eat a burger. I will eat pizza. I eat chocolate every day. Like, you never want to be that person. We don't want to put down anyone's behaviors at all. It's more so the people who come to me asking for help.
Yeah.
And we can kind of improve and weave those things through there. Yeah, but definitely, I'm going to eat those things too. So I can't be a hypocrite.
Excellent. What, with the depression as a kid, and then obviously coming into COVID, did you find that that was so, because Melbourne was the biggest lockdown city in the world during COVID. Was that like, did the black dog start to rear its head a little bit again during COVID, and you were able to catch it? So you were sort of experienced at it, and I guess did that even further ignite this passion for for I need to learn how to help other people with what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. COVID, well, especially with the lockdowns that we had in Melbourne, was very difficult for a lot of people, myself included. I was working a very high stress job at the time, and it got to December 2020, could have been 2021, and I sought mental health help again.
Yeah.
Just going through all of that, it became too much. I had a relationship breakdown in that time, stressful job, the lockdowns, everything. And so I'm not afraid to admit that I am taking mental health medication as well. It's a holistic therapy. Like you said, we want to work with therapists and doctors and physios and everyone to try and get people this really like holistic care. And I believe that in myself as well. And yeah, so I ended up having to seek sort of mental health help, and found a new therapist in that time as well. And you're right, it did really reignite my passion for mental health. It's always sat in the background. During school, I would do art-based, in year 11 art, I would do images that were kind of depicting mental health, like the feelings, putting that into artwork.
Yeah.
And then through my studies, every once in a while, I would put in sort of like a mental health paper that's involved in that. But I never really honed in on it. And then once that pandemic hit and I realized the impact that it was going to have on myself and everyone, it really just showed me that that's my path.
And I guess you finding out, and, there'd be so many people listening to this that I guess have probably never even put any thought or very little thought into what they eat can have a direct correlation to how they feel, and how they feel can have a direct correlation to what they eat. It's something that we just don't think about. And like I said, that's why on that particular day, I just wanted to go over the road and murder a pie and a sausage roll and a chocolate milk. That's why I wanted to do that, not go here and have something much more healthier. So if they can understand that more, that's helping them in the long run, isn't it? And that's just that whole cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of the work that I do with people is even getting them just to do a food and mood journal, so that they realize how they're feeling at the time and how to correlate that with the foods that they're eating, and that vice versa relationship. I was feeling crap today, so I wanted to go and murder a pie at the servo, or I felt okay today, murdered a pie at the servo, and then that night I felt really shit and I don't understand why.
Yeah.
And so kind of picking up on that correlation.
So before we move into question 2, here we go. So for me personally, if I have gotten enough sleep, if I have done some exercise, if I have eaten well and I have fluid, if all those are working well, everything works well. But for me, if one of those are out, everything is out. So if I've had a shit sleep, same thing. I will want to go to the bakery and just cut sick. But if I'm, and if I'm feeling dehydrated, same sort of thing. If I haven't trained, I feel really like, ugh. So it's interesting how you're talking about everything just working hand in hand, because a lot of us, and again, we're all trying out to do our best, but a lot of us will work on one facet, but not work on anything else, or I will be fit as physically, but our emotional fitness isn't in check, or we're hiding it with something else. So do you find that the people that come to you are not reluctant, but when you start peeling back the onion, do they go, oh fuck, that's why I'm doing that, that's why I'm doing that, and it's like, oh my God, this has been here the whole time?
Yeah, so common, so common. And we still have this huge stigma around mental health as well. So, and a lot of fear around it too. People know what I do and come to me for what I do, but still don't really want to talk about their mental health. And that's understandable. So then we start picking away at all those other things. How is your sleep? How is your exercise routine? What are you having for breakfast? Do you drink too much coffee? Like, it just all piles on. And it's sort of that realization that people have tends to come in the end.
Yeah, right.
Once they've done all of these things and sort of realigned themselves. Sometimes it can just take one thing. It can take drinking enough water for someone to go, oh my God, I feel so much better. I'm sleeping better. I've got more energy. I've got this. Yeah. But for a lot of people, it's sort of once we've ticked away at all those little things, the realization comes at the end and goes, oh my God, I feel so much better.
Is there not a type or a demographic, but is there a client type that you get more common? So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, are you getting older clients, younger clients, high stress jobs, or people who are, wanting to find more answers? What would be a average client that you get, if there's such a thing?
Yeah, I guess someone kind of aged, I would say mid 20s to late 30s or mid 40s,
Mm-hmm.
in that area. It's that time in our life where we need to buckle down and find the right job and start a family and buy a house, and all of these stresses kind of pile on. It's generally in that age demographic.
Yep.
Probably more so women than men.
Mm-hmm.
Men are less likely to speak out about any health things, let alone their mental health. And generally people who experience gut issues. Most of the time that's how it's all manifesting, because our brain has this connection with our gut.
Right.
Your mental health will manifest bloating or constipation or gas or something like that in the gut. And so people tend to come to me with that first. So it's kind of that kind of person.
Is it a consultation thing, or do you like take bloods and all that sort of stuff, or?
So it starts with a consultation because it's personalized. It all depends. If I feel like someone needs testing, like if there's something really standing out that's worrisome, then we can send them off for testing. Generally, I like it if they could go to the GP first and just get a full bloods done, so I can check all their nutrients. But it's not necessary to begin with.
Would you say 90% are just like plain as day? You need that. You're not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all pretty common in that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty standout.
I don't know why that keeps doing balloons. That's
that's fun.
I don't know. I'm no good with computers. All right, so let's move on to question 2. You've probably figured out this shit really intrigues me, so I probably going to ask you shitloads of questions.
Yeah.
And we do go off on tangents. Warning. All
That's
right.
right. Happy to.
Cool.
I love it.
Number 2, 3 reasons you get out of bed every morning.
First one, pretty obvious one, is my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I know that 4 mental health days make people want to stay in bed. I completely understand that, and I've felt it myself. But I know for me, you've got to get up.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get up and get moving, whether it's just to make a cup of tea or go for a walk or something. If I stay in bed, I know it's only going to get worse.
What's your big way, if you were to give one piece of advice to combat, like the way you combat it yourself? What's the big thing that you would do?
Tough question. Yeah.
You strike me as a very organized person.
I am.
And you like routine.
And that was going to be my answer too. And that's generally what I work on with a lot of people too, is routine. Our brains love them. There's, a certain set of people who routine just doesn't work for them, and that's fine. But the majority of us, our brains thrive in routine. Yeah. And so that is generally where we'd start.
And in cold Melbourne weather, it can be very hard to get out of bed.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Hard to get out of bed. I normally walk in the morning. It's, I don't take my phone with me. I just go for a quick walk. I've got a beautiful reserve nearby. And that's like my me time. That's like meditative for me. And this weather is making that very difficult.
Yeah, it's the transition period into winter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because your Melbourne winters are awesome. No, they're really good from a Queenslander to a Melbourne.
Yeah, right.
It's under 20 degrees here and we're all putting jumpers on. So yeah.
Oh, you poor thing.
I know, right? I know. What's reason 2 and 3?
Number 2 is I'm really motivated to get out of bed because of the people who rely on me.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be I do NDIS work on the side as well, doing disability support work. So whether it be a day that I get up and I need to go there because I know they're relying on me for help, or if it's something as simple as, you know, my partner Tim's relying on me to get moving and be a partner to him in his life too. So yeah, the people around me. And then my lucky last one, great motivator, is food. Breakfast is the best meal of the day.
I would be almost thinking you're a bit of a charlatan if you didn't say you were, you know, a nutritionist isn't getting up for good food.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. No, wouldn't put myself in that box. Love it. Food is worth getting up for sure.
What's your this might come down later, but I'm going to say it anyway. What's the food that you will be eating and then you just are going, this is living. There is no other place I'd rather be.
Oh, that's a good one.
How good is life?
Yeah. You know, I'm a real breakfast fan.
Okay.
Most of the food that I put up on my Instagram page is breakfast related. I'm a huge advocate for eating breakfast, and it's just my favorite. Some days I get creative with it. I'll eat anything for breakfast.
I'll just cross out the intermittent fasting.
Hey, it all depends. It all depends on the person. But no, yeah, breakfast for me is everything. So if I can make a really good homemade something for breakfast, I'm living.
It was funny when you gave your presentation to our fight group, and Dylan, one of our guys, mentioned intermittent fasting. In my head, I was like, "Fucking shut up!
Not to a nutritionist.
Don't fucking talk about that."
Oh, it's all right. It's something that works for some people, but yeah, you've got to go into it with a lot of nuance, I think. Yeah, something that works for a few people, but not for everyone. There's too much of a craze out there, I think, for it.
It's like Cookie Monster says, it's a sometimes thing.
Yes, that's right. Good advice.
That's right. Looking Sesame Street. All right, number 3, 2 guilty pleasures that you have.
I am a sucker for a terrible Christmas movie come December.
Okay. What you go to?
Anything awful Hallmark, you know, looks like it's been made with like a $10 budget.
Yeah. Oh, right. So that lunchtime on free to air TV Christmas movie.
Yeah. Love them.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah. I don't think many people watch them, but I am there.
When would you have said this formed? When did this sort of come to be?
Actually, when I was living in Sydney, I worked at a gym called Planet Fitness. Really popular in the US. We've got a few in Australia now. And one of my close friends that worked there with me, she used to love Christmas movies. And we said to each other, all right, we're going to watch as many Christmas movies as we can that December that I was there. And she would just message me, you know, on our days off or anything like that and tell me, you've got to watch this one, you've got to watch this one. And I've been hooked.
Was it like a car crash, some of them? You knew it was shit, but you just could not turn away.
Awful. Some of them, like, oh my goodness. I don't know how someone's been paid to write the scripts for these films.
That's interesting.
I love them.
So if you watch something a little bit high budget, like let's just say, I don't know, like a Love Actually or something like that, are you like, no, fuck that. That's too high end. I need something that was made with $200 in someone's backyard.
I think I can pepper the good ones in there for sure. There's a few classics. I can't go past Christmas without watching Gremlins.
Oh, yeah.
Or The Grinch or something like that.
So good to see a younger kid going back to Gremlins. That's good.
Love it.
That's
love
good.
It. There's so much nostalgia in it.
Truth be told, one of my dogs when I was a kid was called Gizmo.
Oh, perfect. I can't imagine how many dogs were named Gizmo after that movie came out.
He was a fucking psychopath too. I should have called him Spike. All right. Have you got a second guilty pleasure?
I do. Wedding cake.
Okay.
Interesting coming from a nutritionist. But
Not really.
but I'm a sucker for it. I love wedding cake. It's fabulous. If I go to a wedding, I'm having like 3 pieces minimum.
With like the 3-inch, what's it called? Marzipan ice.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
delicious.
just like sugar in a cup.
Yeah, pure
God.
happiness.
All right. So
Love
everyone
wedding.
else is going like, I'll be fine for cake, and you're like up there for your third helping, or
Yeah. Oh, I'll take people's cake off them if they're not going to eat it.
you gonna eat that?
Yeah, that's me creeping around. I love it.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Is that why, like, that's the only reason you go to weddings now? She's,
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Wouldn't go that far, but
Rach is here again and she's asking for cake.
yeah, I'm only here for the cake.
That's it. That's a nice thing to say. All right, let's go question 4. One thing you bought that has literally made you happy every day after.
Yeah, so this was a tricky question.
I know. We spoke about this off air.
Yeah. Yeah, I did have difficulty with this question because I guess trying to think of something that I've bought, whether it be material or an experience or something like that. Trying to think of something that's consistently made me happy since I've bought it was quite difficult. In my journey, I've spent a lot of time trying to find the joy in the immaterial things in life. Things like meaningful relationships, family and friends, doing the things that I love, exercise, all of that. And that's generally where my focus lies. So trying to think of something that I've actually bought was quite difficult. The only thing that I did think of is I wear a ring every day that I bought for myself when I was 22.
Okay.
I bought it for my birthday. And it was really like, it was something I could buy for me. Something that was always going to be mine. It was never going to be connected to someone. Anyone who gives you jewelry is generally a boyfriend or something like that. But I wanted to buy something for me that was mine forever and that I can hopefully pass down.
And I think we're allowed to buy ourselves things like that, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
So with that in mind, I said this to one person I was interviewing the other day. You're an experiences over possessions person?
Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. When it comes to birthday presents and things like that, I'll tend to buy my family or my friends experiences. Create memories over buying items.
Has that always been the case?
No.
Okay. You think you were probably a little bit more, what's the word? A stuff person prior?
Yeah, for sure. My family, I feel like our collective love language is gift giving. And I've always been that way growing up like that. And so we do presents for everything. And it's probably only in the last, I would probably say since the pandemic, the last 4 years, that my perspective on that has really changed. Being in lockdown for so long really did put that into perspective, that the time that you spend with people is more valuable than anything you can buy. And I guess that's really changed the way I feel about it. And now I tend to go towards experiences.
I guess that was the thing, wasn't it? And, us in Queensland had a much smaller pandemic lockdown than you guys. But you can't, you can't wear those, $500 shoes and expensive dresses and whatever else if you're not allowed to leave the house.
That's right.
You train at the gym of one of my close friends. Would you have said that was the coming back, because you did such a long lockdown, was the coming back to training, you said before you had a little bit of the social anxiety when you were younger. Was it like, I can't wait to get back, but now you can go back, you go, fuck, I don't know if I want to go back, will it be the same? Was there a little bit of this, or was it just like, I'm going?
Yeah, no, for me, it was all gung-ho going back to Smack. Yeah, it was, I knew from the get-go, from starting there, how much I loved it and how great the environment is. Matt Ball's built such a beautiful environment in the gym. And I was training in the women's classes at that time and, getting a lot of that kind of female energy. was really great. And I knew as soon as those classes were allowed, we had to train outside when we first came back.
Yeah.
I can't remember for how long for, but we could only train outside. And as soon as those classes were back, I was there.
Yeah.
Bells on. Yeah.
It's just an example. Like that's arguably one of the things you missed the most in the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. Being able to move your body. I guess we'll get to it in one of the questions too. But to be able to move your body beyond just walking, we were only allowed to walk for an hour outside during the pandemic, and it's difficult when you can't exercise with someone and bounce off someone and get that energy off them.
You feed off their energy.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have that for so long, so being able to get back to that was really uplifting.
Yeah, good. Now, question 5. One thing everyone thought you were crazy doing, but did it anyway, and it paid off.
Moving to Sydney.
Yep.
Yeah, moving to Sydney was a really big thing.
Who thought, well, without naming names, who thought you were a bit of a nutball?
I think a few friends thought it was a bit crazy. And my family was very supportive, but I'm sure when I wasn't there were a few conversations.
Yeah.
But it was such a wonderful experience. I think I did so much growth in that time, and I made some really great friends when I was.
So when you say growth as in like you had to kind of didn't have a choice. It was, if I don't do this, no one's going to do it for me.
Yeah. It forces you to be independent, being away from family and friends. My whole life is here. I've never left here, Victoria. And so making the move up there, you've got no friends, you've got no family, you've got no one to lean on. I just had my partner at the time, and that was it. And so we kind of had to build a life there, and it forced me to be very independent. It was also isolating too, which also forces you to look inward.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of time on your own with yourself, and I thought that was actually really fantastic for me.
Would you move back there?
No, I wouldn't. Reason being is Sydney just feels like it's in a rush.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I find Melbourne to be a combination, a contrast between Brisbane and Sydney.
Yeah.
So it's Melbourne, I think, is somewhere in the middle. Brisbane is, well, I think it's probably the more laid back. But yeah, Sydney, if you don't pull off a green light within a nanosecond, someone's beeping the fucking horn at you.
Definitely. Everyone was up your ass driving. It was a nightmare, and it's just chaos. So no, I don't think it was just too high stress.
And I think just too, like the stress of just the living there. Like I remember being there one time, and we it was a weeknight, and we were having some drinks at Opera Bar overlooking, and there's people there like in suits at 9:30 at night, clearly have come from work. I'm like, do you not have fucking work to go to tomorrow? Like, it was just for us Queenslanders, like we're, to find a pub that serves a meal past 7:30 at night is rare. It was just the pace of life. I went, I don't know if I could do this.
No, very strange. And coming from Melbourne, it's nightlife city down here. That's, such an entertainment capital. And going to Sydney, it really wasn't like that either. We lived quite far out from the city. We were about an hour out from the CBD. But even going for a night out in the city, there wasn't even as much for us to do. Down here in Melbourne, the entertainment value wasn't as much, which was really interesting.
Yeah, no. Well, good to know. You can stay in Melbourne. I think you're more needed there.
Yeah.
All right. Question 6. 4 things you cannot live without, animate or inanimate.
First one is some sort of consistent form of exercise, for sure.
When did you find out that was something that you needed? Have you always been an exerciser?
Not really. No.
So when was the light bulb moment there?
So I loved, in my early teens, I did swimming and netball.
Yeah.
Loved them to death. unfortunately, I stopped doing swimming to prioritize netball, and then I got knee issues because of netball, so I had to stop.
Yeah, great sport.
Yeah, right. Great on the knees. Great on
Yeah,
the
my
knees.
kids will never play netball. Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu is fine, just no netball.
No, too rough. Too many hip and ankle and knee
Yeah,
problems.
no, I get it.
So I knew I loved that, and I knew I had a thrill for it, but I definitely lost that later in my teens and early adulthood. And then exercise in my early adult years was always, vanity focused. It was, I really honed in on it when I was calorie counting, because I wanted to lose as much weight as possible and thought that was really great for me. And I was over exercising and not really thinking of exercise like it was something that was beneficial in other ways.
Yeah.
And when I was living in Sydney and working in the gym, that was when I kind of really started to feel the difference in that. I wasn't exercising for vanity so much. I had PT friends who were kind of helping me strength train rather than do a lot of cardio.
Yeah. So your mind shifted to longevity, health.
Exactly. Function.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ever since then, it's been like that.
I think when we're teenagers, we're not thinking about that stuff, as you've probably worked with younger people, just getting to remember what day of the week it is half the battle.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't blame myself. I don't hold it against myself in any way or anyone else. I'm just happy that it's something that's in my life now, and it changes too. I strength train sometimes. Doing Muay Thai consistently has always been great. I'll walk some days. I did yoga for a little bit. It's always changing. I'm not perfectly consistent at it too. Like, I'm not definitely training 3 days a week all the time, no matter what. I will listen to my body.
I think it's that thing too. And I know that's probably one big thing that I have not done. And at 29, I definitely wasn't doing it. I was training probably too much.
Overtraining.
But now if I just try and my only criteria is I try and puff and sweat most days.
Yeah.
If I don't get to train, it's not a big deal, but I'll definitely try and do something tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And you just make the compromise with yourself as well. It's never letting go of it, and it's never doing too much. It's finding your balance. And that's definitely something I can't live without.
Excellent. What are the other three?
Meaningful relationships.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. I think this is something that everyone can't live without. Well, I guess there's been scientific research to show us that we can't live without.
Yeah, we kind of need them.
Yeah. Babies don't thrive without love. But it's really kind of come to light in the last few years how beautiful having real, strong, meaningful friendships really is. Having that social anxiety from a young age, it took me a long time to find a group of people or even certain individuals that I could connect with so much that, you bounce energy off them and you get energy back. And
they come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, you don't it's not an application process. You'll just meet a person. I really like you. I can click with you.
Yeah, I'll keep you.
Yeah. Can we keep him? I was working with a 7-year-old boy earlier this week who has a bit of stuff going on. We were talking about the difference between friends and mates. And he goes to quite a small school. And I said, are you friends with everybody at school? And he went, yeah, I'm friends with everyone. I said, okay. And I said, now if you were going to have a sleepover and you could only invite 3 friends, who would you invite? And he went Jack, Harry. And then he was deliberating over the third one. And I said, all right, so we've just worked out Jack and Harry, they're your mates.
Yeah.
The rest are your friends, and you can be friends. I've got people that, as I say this, Matt would probably be the same. We have a club of 400 odd members, but with all due respect, there's probably 6 that I would invite around to my house for an intimate dinner on a Saturday night because we're just not, we can be friends, but we're just not, we don't have that thing.
That bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And those bonds are so important, and nurturing those bonds are so important too. Reaching out to those people and just checking in on them. I've got a close girlfriend who that's just our thing. We just message checking in and just see how each other's lives are going. And yeah, they're just so important.
I did that to someone just before. He's having a bit of shit going down.
Yep.
You got anything else? You got two more.
Got two more. My Google Calendar. Can't live without
it.
Yeah. Organized person. Yeah. I
got one too, because I can't remember stuff we spoke about 10 minutes ago. So me remembering appointments is just gone now.
No, fair enough. You got a busy life, Kyl. We've got busy lives.
Who doesn't?
Too hard. Exactly. Too hard. You need reminders. Thank God for smartphones.
Oh God. Yeah. That's another discussion.
Yeah. We'll actually get to that. And the last thing, didn't figure out this until not too recently, but soft lighting at nighttime.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't live without. Can't have the big light on.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. Part of the work that I do with people, getting them into routine and kind of soothing them, is a lot of nighttime sleep aid and help. And through that education, realize that me having soft light, like a salt lamp or like yellow lighting at night, helps my sleep, helps me rest. It absolutely changes everything.
Right.
Yeah, so soft lighting at night.
You would have a lot of your clients, it'd almost be like a Groundhog Day thing, them saying their sleep's shit. They either don't get enough or they don't have quality sleep.
Yeah.
And like you just said, there's sometimes we're saying all this stuff knowing what the answers are, but that would be, obviously a very direct correlation to food, but they just don't realize it, just how much their poor sleep is affecting so many other parts of their life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And especially with food, if you've got poor sleep, then your prefrontal cortex in the front of your brain here is there for rational decision making, and it is impaired when you don't get enough sleep. And so your decision making towards the foods that you eat is impaired.
Yeah.
But not only that, then your brain requires 25% of the energy that you put in throughout the day. So a quarter of what the food that you eat, that energy goes to your brain. That's huge.
Yeah.
And so it knows that if it's tired, I'm going to crave fast foods or quick energy foods because I'm exhausted and I want that energy straight away. That's the brain talking. And so it's, even just going off those two things alone is a huge wake up call to a lot of people with their sleep.
Yeah. Shift workers.
Yeah.
Are they just an accident waiting to happen sometimes when it comes to sleep and food and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's difficult. It can be really difficult. Some people thrive in shift work. They've got a routine down. My sister does shift work and she's got it all down to the letter. She's great. She's thriving in it. But other people, I've got a girlfriend who works in the hospital and she could be working mornings 2 days a week. She could be working evenings 2 days a week. She could do overnight for 3 days. It can be anywhere. And unfortunately, she's a bit relentlessly tired, which sucks.
That would be the one. So if you were consistently working nights, you would just, arguably have a pattern just in reverse.
Yeah.
But like we've got a lot of coppers that train here and they take a couple of days to get over the night shift, then they're back to the night shift after the days and they're just all over the place.
Yeah, there's no pattern for them. There's no routine, which can be really difficult. So a lot of that is just a lot of education and support around when you do get to eat or when you do get your time to yourself, like during the day or your days off or something, to still keep those healthy practices in place.
Are you a napping advocate for mental health?
Actually, really funny. I come and go on it sometimes, but I actually do think so. Our brain sucks so much more energy up when our mental health is poor. We're thinking so much more. And a lot of negative energy is going on up there that it does make you tired. And there is research to show that napping for half an hour in the middle of the day is super beneficial for us. It's why siestas are a thing kind of in a lot of countries overseas. They've got it down pat. So the difficult thing is with napping is not to do it after kind of 12, 1 p.m.
Oh,
Any later
okay.
than that, and it starts to, impede on sleep later in the day.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so kind of 12, 1 o'clock is the sweet spot. Yeah, everyone's lives are different. If you're going to bed at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night because you have to, because that's how your day's planned out, then maybe you can have a nap later in the day and it's not going to affect your sleep cycle.
Yeah.
But for us general kind of 9 to 5 wake sleepers, midday, so which is hard because then we're all at work.
So just if my kids are listening and all these years they did the bullshit excuse where they're having an afternoon nap and then they turn around at 8:30, said they're not tired to go to bed. They were kind of telling the truth.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Hello, Ivy and Lila.
And then I bet they were grumpy the next day because
They're always grumpy.
How old are they?
Especially Ivy. All right. Now, question 7. If you were not doing what you're doing in life right now, what would have been option number 2?
I had to have a think about this one. I really loved literature in school. I think I spoke about it a little earlier.
Are you a reader?
I am, yeah.
What's a book lately that you've picked up and you just couldn't put it down?
What have I read lately? I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. That was brilliant. I struggled with that one actually because the last chapter is about death.
Yeah.
Which I put the book down and didn't read the last chapter for about another month because it's quite a confronting thing to read about. But I'm glad I did because that chapter I think actually had the most impact on me.
I love his way. So I don't know if you know, but Mark Manson's become quite the YouTuber.
Yeah.
And he just, the way he speaks, he speaks in a real world sort of tone.
And he writes like that too. It's a really easy read.
Yeah. I really like that. Some of the stuff he's been putting up on YouTube, especially like how he's stopped drinking alcohol now.
Yeah.
I can really relate to that. So yeah, that's a good choice. Fiction or nonfiction mostly?
Generally fiction.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always got some sort of I guess you would say self-help book going on the go. Just something to keep me thinking.
Are you a 1 book at a time person or a 2, 3, or 4 book at a time person?
I tried the 2 book at a time thing, and I found that I fell in love more with one book than the other.
Yeah, it got neglected.
Yeah, exactly. So I think 1 book is my thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
literature?
Could have done something in literature, journalism, or something like that. Or I think I probably would have gone down the personal training route.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. What like we were talking about exercise and all the rest of it. So clearly to now go, well, I could have done this, this, and this. And because now so much of what you're doing is, like I said, you're working with athletes, you're training physically yourself a lot. Do you ever see those pictures as a teenager and look at yourself and go, fucking hell, if you only knew what you were going to turn into? Do you do that?
Yeah, all the time.
It's crazy, isn't it?
All the time. I'd love to have the opportunity to go back and just tell that girl it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. Yeah. I often look back at the hair color I had or the haircuts I had and I go, the 90s.
What the fuck were you doing?
The 90s were not kind.
That was the time.
Oh, it was the time to have every color and every length and, yeah.
That's right. I had to experiment.
No, baggy jeans were not okay. They've never been okay. They're never going to be okay. All right. Number 8. One time you've backed yourself when everything was saying to just give up.
I'm actually going through this right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I said earlier, I relaunched my business with the focus of mental health nutrition, kind of going on 18 months ago now. And it's gotten to the point where I would love that to become my world.
Yeah.
Be that full time or whatever. And I'm sort of at this precipice now where I know that there's a lot that you have to do in running your own business.
Yes.
and
Yes, indeed.
things are beginning to pile on. And it's stressful and it's hard. And I'm learning a lot because you have to be everything. You have to be your accountant, you have to be a planner.
And there's no off button.
No,
You're
no.
sitting on the bed or the couch on a Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock doing stuff, because if you don't do it, then Monday's just going to be a shit fight and you're on the back foot. You come home after a full day, you've still got emails to get through, you know. I get it, man.
That's exactly right. And I know you would too, because it's, if we want to have that dream of ours, you've got to make it a reality because no one else is going to do it for you.
I think the beautiful thing these days is we have learned that people, and again, financial security is important to us all, but so is happiness. I think we have learned that you can make a comfortable living out of doing literally anything if you just work your ass off. And
Yeah.
you would have somebody like Matt to give you a good example of what is involved. Like we're in Thailand recently, both working, answering emails, doing meetings and that sort of shit. But I think my advice to you, if you want to take it, is just hang in there. It will get worse before it gets better, and it can't be any worse than maybe what, like I said. Would you rather have all that to struggle with, or would you rather go and work in a job that makes a lot more money that you hate, but again, financially probably, but you're probably changing someone's life at least once a day. But
Yeah.
we just don't take notice of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I left a job that was paying very well, was doing a lot of cool things, but I was miserable. And the first 12 months of my transition period, I went and worked in a bottle shop to make up the gap for that. And the owner of the bottle shop was owner of the pub, sorry, was an old friend of ours. And he just said, "You are the most overqualified bottle shop attendant I've ever had." And I went, "I don't care, Ross. This is just a filler." And he knew that, but it just, over 12 months, 5 shifts became 4, 4 became 3, 3, and then boom, literally 12 months. So just hang in there.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And that's just the feeling that I'm at the moment, is just, I know to back myself. It just,
We should put that on a t-shirt. Oh, hang on. No, we do have it on a t-shirt.
there, good.
I have to give you one.
Yes, please.
I think that's the big thing that we and if you allow yourself to, and I will do it at least once every 8 to 12 weeks, you get caught up in all the adulting, as I call it. And then, yeah, in your case, for example, you'll have this one person come in and they get in touch with you afterwards saying, "You've literally changed my life. You've done this." Like Matt's been teaching as long as me. You'll run into a kid in the shops that's not a kid anymore. He's a grown adult with his kids, and he'll recall this conversation that you had about doing push-ups and this and that. And you go, "Oh, yeah, I have no recollection of this," but you've hung on to that for 20 odd years. You'll have those moments.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to.
It is. It is. It'll be fun. It'll be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. Don't eat the fucking cheeseburgers. Um, all right. Now, number 9, 3 pieces of advice to people that are finding reasons to not back themselves, but to instead back themselves.
I think everyone needs to do this, but especially people who are finding reasons not to back themselves, is to practice some form of self-love. Whether
What do
that's,
you do?
I journal,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like a lot of lifestyle things are a way to practice self-love. Like me going to the gym is a way of practicing self-love. Getting into therapy, eating healthy food, like I'm investing in myself. But sometimes it's even just looking in the mirror and saying those affirmations, or just reminding yourself that you are worthy of love as well. I think a lot of people, that gets in the way of it, is not feeling worthy of what they're doing.
And I think I often say this, we confuse self-love with selfish.
Yeah.
I think they're very different. I
Yeah.
think you're allowed to, put something on hold to go to the gym. You're allowed to say, I can't make that appointment. That old stoic saying, everything you say yes to means you're saying no to something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see this a lot in clinic with mums coming
Mm,
in, dedicating their everything to their kids and their families. And that's wonderful for them. But they also lose themselves along the way, and forget that they are also entitled to not to be selfish, but to care for themselves.
yeah.
They always say that I feel selfish. And I have to remind them that it's not selfish. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the other people in your life.
I think it's a generational thing too. And I think it's getting better. But I know like my mother, basically, well, my mum has never been overseas. She's left the state twice.
Wow.
She lived in Perth very briefly in the 70s for like a year with my dad. But other than that, she's basically, her life has revolved around me and our family. And not to say that we're not grateful, but if she'd have just every now and then said, I'm going out with the girls tonight or whatever, none of us would have cared.
No.
We would have
And I think
actually supported it.
that's the perception that happens as well, is that they're worried that someone's going to care, or that you're going to let someone down, without realizing that you're it sounds awful, but you're almost letting them down by not doing the things for you, because you're not giving your best in the end.
I would have said this at least 1,000 times to clients and just people. What's the brief what's the brief in the airplane in case of an emergency? Who do you put the oxygen mask on first?
Exactly. Your
That's
mask
it.
on first. That's
Got to
right.
do it. If you're no good, uh there's a guy I follow, he's a big wave surfer. His name's Laird Hamilton. And yeah, he's got a lot of businesses. He's the guy who actually invented stand-up paddleboarding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, made it a thing. He he's very invested in his health and wellness, because he goes, if I'm not invested in this, I'm no good to anybody. I can't do anything. So yeah,
Exactly. And I think part of that too is not just investing in your physical health, because we see a lot of that in
100%.
young blokes, especially. They'll start eating healthy, and they'll exercise, and they'll do all this stuff, and they still don't like themselves.
Yeah,
You've got to put in that hard work as well.
that loathing. What's
Yeah.
your other two pieces of advice?
We touched on this earlier, is spending less time on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of a difficult one generationally, for the younger generation. And it took me a long time to put this into practice as well. But a lot of what we're doing when we're spending time on our phone, scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, TikTok or whatever it is comparing ourselves to others. Subconsciously, on some level, that's what we're doing. If we're, like you and I, we're running businesses, we follow other pages that do similar businesses. You can't help but compare yourself. What are they doing that I'm not doing? You can't help it. But we don't realize that the emotional impact that has on us throughout the day, and especially at certain times of the day. If you wake up and you grab your phone and you start scrolling straight away first thing in the morning, that literally wires your brain to be more stressed throughout the day. Your cortisol levels go higher, your stress hormone. And then it's hard to put the phone down. It's hard to stop comparing. You're literally stressed. And then same at night, when we're scrolling on our phones and making our cortisol spike because we're comparing ourselves to other people, it impacts our sleep. It's all a cycle.
You'll find a person I interviewed recently in the things that I cannot live life without. He went, this.
Yeah.
I need this. This is
like
what
that
I
would be
run my
most
business
people.
on. This is what I do this. So he was talking about that from a business point of view, but yeah, it's hard because can you imagine, well, your business is on social media. What if it wasn't? Would you have any clients?
No. That's it.
It's
A
it's
couple of
a
word of
it's a
mouth.
it's a
That's it.
vicious circle.
It is. And I think that's just where learning to put boundaries in place that work for you are really
Mm.
important. Like
Do you
not
have
being,
the teenage phones downtime? Do you have a phones downtime?
well, basically I put my phone on like a timed cycle
Yep.
now. So it goes into focus mode. If you've got an iPhone, it goes into focus mode. So people can still call. And I know that in a case of an emergency, I know I'm going to still receive that call. But if someone's texting me, it's not an emergency.
Mm.
So no alerts will come through from 8 p.m. till 8 a.m. Nothing comes through.
Nice.
And I'm not perfect. I will falter. There are some times where
Oh,
I'll use
who
my phone
doesn't?
in those hours. Exactly. But as a routine, not being on my phone in those hours has given me back so much mental clarity and space, and has given me, like, those are the times where I really need to be present. I'm home. I'm not
Mm.
working, I'm with Tim, I'm with my family. The times where we really need to be present and not comparing ourselves to
Is
others.
Tim ever sitting on the phone and you go, "Oi"?
Yes. Yes. I'll whack it out of his hands. God, he's terrible. Yeah.
Hard, man. Once you like just start scrolling, I remember. So quick funny story there. Back to Matt Ball. I think we both joined TikTok at the same time during COVID, and I would sit on the couch during lockdown for like 40 minutes at a time, and we would be sending each other TikToks at the
Yep.
same time, just back forth. And we just, after all, went, we could just pick up the phone and talk, but no, we'll just keep sending fucking TikToks. This is fun. Like, yeah.
I feel like it's its own language now too. The
Oh,
way
I love him to bits, but they fucking broke the mold when they made him.
it's a shocker.
Anyway,
We do love him. So yeah, that one. And then the last one is, finding reasons not to back yourself. I think a lot of people can be afraid
yep.
in that. And I'm a firm believer in doing the shit that scares you.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it can be taking yourself outside of that problem. If you're a fighter, you've got a fight coming up and you feel like you want to back out, maybe take yourself out of that situation and go and do something else that scares you, that has no risk. Go on a roller coaster, go and play paintball.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, thank you. I think it just reminds us what we're capable of. And I definitely try and do it as much as I can in my life. Being able to face even just a small fear shows you that you have that strength, you have that capability to face the larger things. Just having that gentle reminder, and even being able to give yourself that confidence back as well.
Yeah.
If you're just doing something that gives you a little bit of a fright, or I'll spend that extra money, but I'll get an outfit that I feel really confident in, or I'll teach someone a skill, but I've never taught before. But I'm really good at that skill and I know I can teach them that. I think that can really make a big impact.
I was mentioning in a jiu-jitsu class last night, we seem to, as a society, be running away more and more from doing the hard things.
Yeah.
And we're only doing the hard things essentially when somebody is telling us to. Do you find that when you have some clients come to you, like, good on them, they've made an admission and come to you, but are they like, okay, I've got this wrong with me, okay, I need to fix it, so can we fix it? How do I fix it? Like, they want you to be the Lord and Savior, whereas, like, mate, I can tell you what to do, but you're the one who's got to do it.
Yeah. And that was a huge part of my realization in what I wanted to do with nutrition too. I'm not a weight loss nutritionist unless it comes to Muay Thai athletes. Got that down pat, love that. I really enjoy that. But when it comes to everyday weight loss, really hard to get someone to realize that there's no quick fix.
Have you ever had a client that you've just had to say, I don't think I don't think we're clicking?
Yeah. And in that case, we just refer on. Find someone else, help them make that transition to find someone else that might be working for them. I've had a really beautiful client for the last 12 months, and we've just recently had to part ways. She made some amazing strides, huge changes to her diet, but there were just some things that weren't sinking in.
Yeah.
And I think someone else's approach could be better for those aspects of her life.
That's a level of professionalism for you. Just like say it's above your pay grade.
Yeah, and I think it's just it's the right thing to do as well. It's definitely not professional to keep having someone come in and been trying to give their advice but knowing it's not going to work. That's just not right in my books. So yeah, had to move her on, and that was kind of scary, but it was
It is because
it was a growing moment.
what was it? One question ago, you were saying like getting your feet in small business and all the rest of it. So that's one trap you fall into. I'll just fucking take anyone because I need business. Whereas if you start to set those boundaries early, then it gets easier. It doesn't get harder.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, just doing that kind of stuff is interesting, definitely confronting, but it's necessary. And yeah, a lot of people definitely want a quick fix, or they want to come in and just have just one answer. Yep, that's what you've got to do. Just no gluten and you'll be fine. And
only it was that fucking easy.
That's right. We'll put that out. That's a public service announcement out there, everyone. It doesn't work like that.
It's not just that.
No.
All right. Question 10, a quote to live by.
I am an avid reader, and right up until my early adult years, I only read the same fictional author.
Okay.
He's known as Matthew Riley. He's an Australian writer. He writes these like fantastical, crazy books. It's like Alien meets Indiana Jones meets SAS.
Okay.
Shoot 'em up, crazy. Good fun, good distraction. But he wrote this 7-part series that was really beautiful. And right in the last book, he wrote this line, we didn't come this far just to come this far. And I think that's a beautiful quote to live by. Keep moving.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
Yeah.
So why does that pull on why does that give you a case of the feel?
I think it kind of ties back into what we were speaking about before, especially with business, times in backing yourself, times where things are tough and you're afraid, knowing that if you stay stuck in that moment, you're going to stay stuck. But if you try even just the littlest thing, even if it's one step out of your comfort zone, or talking to someone different, or just opening up to someone else, you're opening up that pathway to keep moving and get out of what you're stuck in at the moment. I think it serves as a really good reminder to keep moving in life.
So question 10A, where do you see yourself then if you keep moving? 15 years ago, you were not in a good place. You were not, again, trigger warning maybe, you were not wanting to be around. Now look at you. Where do you see yourself in another 15 years?
Good question. Yeah.
Then you'll be like close to my age. Well, actually you won't, because I'll be like 65 or something. I'll talk about that.
That's all right. Yeah, someone asked me this question a couple of weeks ago, sort of where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I found my thought pattern really interesting, was because you don't know. 15 years ago, I had no idea I was going to be here talking to you right now.
5 years ago, you didn't. 2 years ago.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so being able to visualize that future is kind of foggy, but in a good way.
100%.
I've got a really good idea of where I would like to be. I would love to grow in this mental health nutrition field and educate people and get into schools and, make really great networks and connections and possibly even create programs to put out there, and be able to spread the word a lot bigger. But the exact pathway, I've got no idea.
I think that's the bit, dare I say it, that's the fun bit.
Yeah.
Like
it's a journey.
Yeah, well, I knew what I wanted to do, I had no fucking idea how to do it. I still don't on any given day. But yeah, I think the trap we fall into is we try to do everything, and we try to do everything right. You know,
Yeah.
there are some things in here that are going great, and then there are some things in here that are just, my interpretation, a shambles. But if the majority is going okay, then you're doing okay.
Yeah. And our mistakes are important too. They're growing. There are times where we can grow, where we can learn. You know, someone said to me, oh God, I don't know, I may have read it as well. I don't know. That, you know, even our parents, this is their first time on this planet too.
Yeah.
So don't be hard on them. You know, we sort of think that everyone's got everything figured out
No, 100%.
when no one does.
No,
No one
no.
knows.
We would, yeah, as a parent, I'm trying to do what I think is right based on my experience as a kid, which probably wasn't 100% right either. Well, it definitely wasn't 100% right. But yeah, we just go from there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So hopefully my trajectory is going where I would like it to go. But honestly, yeah, I am here to enjoy the ride because that's what life's about, I think.
Well, Rach, I reckon you're doing okay. I reckon you're doing okay. And on that note, I would I would like to thank you for your time today. We
Thank
had to
you,
change
Kyl.
locations. The first location, she just was freezing and looked like a mess. So we're changed locations. Everything's great, and it was a shame because it was beautiful. It had the book in the background. It was like
Yeah.
all ready to, yeah. Anyway,
Had my
we were
office.
here
That's
for
all right.
we're
Blank
here.
canvas.
Yeah, it's got a beautiful white wall. We're
Yeah.
here for the brain impact. Guys, thank you for listening to our chat today. If you like what you hear about Rachel, how do we find you, Rachel? How do we find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at stress.less.nutritionist. And I am working on a new website coming out soon. So you'll be able to find me there. My business name is Mind My Plate Nutrition.
Excellent. And if you want to find more of what we do, like this podcast, share it around, give it a follow, tell people over coffee or a beer that you like it, and let's build a following. But Rach, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you, and thank you for helping my not so bright fighters navigate their way through the realms of food. It was a very good session that you took with them, and they're still talking about it. But guys, we're off. Have a great day or evening, and we will see you all later.